The Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.
Welcome in, Campo and Joe. Well, I guess we're kind of licking our wounds like all of Duval is as we come at you with a Campo and Joe 0-2 podcast. I've never felt like a loser before, Coach, but this kind of feels like a loser's podcast. 0-2.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Well, it might be a loser's podcast, but there's 15 more games.
Okay. All right. Look, I like being the eternal optimist in the offseason, but once I see the product, I can really kind of take a negative outlook.
Yeah.
But it is an 0-2 team. I'm going to give you the numbers as far as how many 0-2 teams make it to the postseason, but we're winners as far as we're concerned. Dave Campo, our head coach, Joe C. from XL Primetime. Appreciate everybody that always checks in with us during the season and in the offseason with a little Campo and Joe. So we've got to get to this game, the nuts and bolts of it, Coach. And I tell you what, it was just real disconcerting to see the way the game started.
Right.
Ultimately, some of the pockets that we will get into. But I think one of the bigger questions that most of Jacksonville Jaguar fans have is why such a flat start with your home opener?
Yeah, really, when you look at this team, I'm going to start it with a positive and a negative that is the same.
Okay.
The positive is that we lost by 5 and we squandered 14 points.
Sure.
Missed field goal. Roughing the passer, that's 4 more points because they would have kicked a field goal there. They scored a touchdown after the roughing the passer.
Mm-hmm.
Shift.
Illegal shift,
on a touchdown. That's 7 points.
Mm-hmm.
So the positive part of that is that really we could have very well scored more points, enough to win.
Right.
The negative part of it is that we squandered it.
Yeah, you did all of those things.
And I think when you look at this football team right now, if you had to give them an overall grade or look at, it's an inconsistent football team now in every area.
Right.
And, everybody's on the offense right now. The defense played pretty well, especially in the second half, except that they didn't start fast.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can bend but don't break, but you don't want to bend and don't break early in the ball game because it can get you in trouble, and that's really what they did.
I think a lot of people look at how teams perform on third down. Well, sometimes you need to look at how many times they own the football and keep moving down the field. Right. They don't necessarily need to convert on third down when they convert on second down, or when they have a first down play that turns into another first down opportunity, which is what Deshaun with Jerry Jeudy, with Moore, not necessarily with Amari, with Jerome Ford, with a handful of other guys, they held on to the football a long, long time in this game.
Yeah, and really, when you look at our offense, I know people are going to ask me what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, with the inconsistency of this offensive line, and I'm sure we're going to talk more about that, but with the inconsistency of this offensive line, we cannot get into third and long. We can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much pressure on the quarterback when it's third and long. Well, if I'm getting ready for a ball game, I'm not even gonna worry about 3rd and 7+ because we're not gonna do anything on 3rd and 7+. I can tell you that right now. We're not physical enough up front.
Right.
You look at the tackles; they're deep setting too much. Guys coming underneath them, getting bulled into the quarterback. Well, here's what you got to do. You got to make sure that during the week, you're getting ready for 1st and 2nd down.
Okay.
Because we have to get into 3rd and short.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how we do it, but we better make sure that we know what we're doing on 2nd down because that's exactly what you just said that Cleveland did to keep them in the football game.
Yeah, they
made the majority of their yardage on 2nd down.
Mm-hmm.
And basically 2nd down passes because their first downs weren't that great. So for me going in, I'm gonna make sure I hone up 1st and 2nd down, and I'm gonna hone up 3rd and 5 or less because I got to go into the ball game thinking we're going to get 3rd and 5 or less, and that's offensively what we need. Defensively, we got to upgrade the pass rush. He didn't blitz anywhere near enough in that ball game, in my opinion. So, we couldn't get the pressure that we should have got on some backup tackles.
Against backup tackles. That
Right.
is infuriating for most Jaguar fans out there. I made the point on XL Primetime yesterday. This is back-to-back September games early in the year. This team came in 0-1, bit of a bruised ego after getting the pants beat off of them by Dallas, and they had 2 backup tackles, couldn't take advantage of it. A year ago, C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans came in 0-2, had been sacked 11 times in the first 2 ball games, and this team didn't get to him. That's 2 losses in September.
I think you said it right. For some reason, we came out flat in the first half of that football game.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We gained a little bit of momentum in the second half, both offensively and defensively, but we still don't finish. And a lot of that to me is want to, and we were flat. There's the only way you look at it.
Okay, I got to ask you, because we're talking to a former head coach, a guy that you coached for decades in the National Football League. How in the hell can a team come into their home opener flat? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
So look at these numbers, and I know Coach and I were sitting in the press box, and I took a picture of this, but just take a look at this. 114 yards to 15 yards in the opening quarter. 10 minutes of possession time for the Cleveland Browns compared to just over 4 minutes for the Jags. The other team got in the end zone after a long 90-minute drive, 8 first downs versus 1 first down. So these, to me, are real serious problems, because the difference between a 14-0 lead on the road against Miami, where they started hot and you're like, this is promising, and they ended up with this bunch of crap at the bank.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you look at what happened in the first half, when you go 3 and out, or you don't do well there, and then your defense lets them hold on to the ball for 7 minutes, a lot of the problems we have, everybody's clamoring that we didn't get the ball to number 7, we didn't get the ball to Kirk, all those things. In some ways, it comes down to the number of opportunities to do it.
Yeah.
If you're not executing on offense, you're not going to have enough plays to get the ball to your playmakers.
Right.
If you're on defense, if you're bend but don't break, and we are that. I mean, any way you look at it, I mean, we're not giving up a lot of points here.
Yeah, Coach, they went 89 yards and used up 9 minutes of clock.
Yeah, so when it's all said and done, when you look back on it, it really comes down to we came out flat, and it really killed us because we didn't have enough snaps in the first half. You don't just throw for 15 yards or 10 yards or whatever it is. If you got enough opportunities to throw the ball, it just doesn't happen. So it's their own fault.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But it wasn't necessarily because of their defense.
It was 15 total yards in the first quarter from the offense, 16 passing yards from Trevor Lawrence in the first 30 minutes of this game.
Right.
When it was all said and done, the Jags were only able to run 55 plays. The Browns only ran 10 more. They ran 65. But going back to what you just said a minute ago, even though this defense has problems, they haven't created the pass pressure that you're looking for, did not create it when you were hoping for it against the Browns. They've held 2 teams to less than 3 touchdowns.
Right.
So they've done what most would consider in the National Football League a good enough job to win a football game defensively.
Right. And again, if you keep a team under, we used to say, if you keep a team under 17, that's when the offenses weren't as prolific as they are now. So if you say you're going to keep a team under 20 points, if you're going to be a good football team, you ought to win the majority of those games. So, this one got away from us just like the last one got away from us.
Yeah,
it comes down to you miss a field goal, that's one play. You, just like the Eagles last night, you drop a ball on Saquon Barkley, who had a great game. He drops that ball or else they win that game.
Yeah.
Okay? We get in a situation where we have a penalty on a touchdown pass.
Yeah,
that's that inconsistent play, or you don't force a field goal on a roughing the passer penalty, and which I think which was in my opinion was a ridiculous
bit
call.
Of a Bush call. Yeah.
If you really look at the tackling in this league, everybody drops their head. They can say whatever they want. When you drop your head and you are on the edge of the receiver or the guy you're hitting, then it's not a penalty.
Right.
You're going after him with the crown of your helmet.
Yeah.
But you're on the edge. Well, when a guy's running and you're coming to make the tackle on him, there's a chance that you might hit him in the midsection or whatever. That shouldn't be a penalty.
Who was it? Was it Lloyd that got
Lloyd.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I always joke, and I go, like with Anatomy 101, if we could just take the head off and set it over to the side, then we would be okay, because he led with his shoulder.
Correct.
Okay? And as long as you lead with your shoulder, you should be okay.
Right.
But you can't just Transformers movie, you can't just pop the head off and set it to the side. Right. It was just such a Bush League call, but it happens over and over and over.
Yeah, but when you do those kind of things, that's an inconsistent football team. Yeah. And the second pass interference in the second half was ridiculous when number 26 pushed the guy on the ground. I mean, you can't do that. You can't push the quarterback on the ground. No, when the play's over, you're just standing there.
Yeah.
So this team right now, there's something missing. There was something missing at the end of the year last year. I don't know what it is. I'm not in that locker room, but they have to come together if we're going to be a decent football team.
Okay, so
and by no means should we be panicking.
Right.
Everything that happened in that game can be fixed, in my opinion, with the exception that if it's 3rd and long, we're going to have a problem. Yeah. Because we are just not physical enough on good pass rushes that can crank it up and go get it.
Yeah, it really is troubling, because you felt like you were going to see improvement on both sides of the ball with the explosive ability that was showcased in the first week, and with the playmaking on the defensive side. We know what happened in the end against Miami. It was a fumble heading into the end zone, and then an 80-yard touchdown a play later offensively for Miami. And you say to yourself, well, if that didn't happen and that didn't happen, would this team be 1-1? Would it be 2-0? We don't know.
Yeah, if would is a should is a candy and nuts, it'd be a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
But
you got to get the job done.
We got to play better.
Okay,
that's the bottom line.
I don't necessarily, like you said, there's a lot of football that is still to be played. I don't want to throw a bunch of darts right now, but there's no getting away from the constants in terms of what is happening right now. This team has now lost 7 of 8 games. They have now basically looked at a football team that ended poorly and is now starting poorly. And the other constants are Doug's leading it and Trevor's quarterbacking it. There have been a few other things that have changed, but those are the constants. So what should you be most worried about? Because Doug Peterson, at the end of the day, this is his product.
Yeah, the thing I'd be the most worried about is the offensive line going forward. And we've said this. We've said this, and we're not the only ones.
Okay, so let's throw Trent Baalke into this conversation too.
Yep, I think they made a mistake. We've been on them in the past about not getting another pass rusher that really can make things happen.
Right.
That's still the case as I look at it. Yeah.
Eric
we're not getting there with 4, and he's just working back in. Yeah. And in reality, he did put pressure on them.
Right. But in his 10th year, not 100% healthy.
Right. And he's not getting as many snaps as you need to be effective. Mm-hmm. But the offensive line is too inconsistent. If it isn't one guy on one play, it's another guy on another play.
Yeah.
Everybody was after Ezra Cleveland on that safety. Well, really, it wasn't 100% Ezra Cleveland's fault. Mm-hmm. It was slide protection over to.
The Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.
85 to
Brenton Strange.
No, 285 on defense.
Oh, okay.
Garrett.
Oh, okay.
It
95.
Was slide,
I got you.
95.
Yeah.
It was slide protection over there. So Ezra Cleveland had to look at what slide protection does for you. Is if Garrett beats the tackle inside, you've got the guy there to help. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't happen, then you help back to the guy that's lined up on you. The center is responsible to reach over and get on that tackle that's on the guard.
Mm-hmm.
And then that one, because they rushed so hard up the field with Garrett, Cleveland tried to come back, and it looked like a double team, but in reality, it was Morse that should have kept him out of there, and it still would have worked. But because the outside guy rushed so quickly around the tackle, Trevor thought he could step out that way, and he stepped out right into the guy beating. It looked like he split the double team, but it wasn't a true double team, is what I'm saying. It's just inconsistent play from everybody.
Exactly.
You know, Harrison gets beat underneath clean a couple times. I mean, it's just bad football right now.
And then you go to the other side. Cam whiffs on a block last week, and then had another poor game this week, even on a pull where he should be able to manhandle.
Yeah, that's a tough one because, first of all, when you look at their defense, the one thing they showed in that game is those linebackers attacked the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
That's why play action, if you get anything going, those should be good deals. But they ran a play action where it was fake to the left and they pulled the tackle back around to seal the backside. And the linebacker ran right underneath him, and the guy that ran underneath him, he didn't expect that guy to be coming that quickly.
Yeah.
And he went right underneath him. He missed it. He whiffed it. It's just ugly. It's ugly. They're trying to scheme things, and the scheme's not working out. The offensive line is just not playing very well, in my opinion.
And they're about to meet a hungry Buffalo Bills team that has been on the short end in a couple of games against the Jaguars recently. They are looking kind of red hot right now. They get a couple of extra days of rest after beating Miami and basically handling them 31-10. They get it at their house. They didn't have it last year. The home game for them was up in Tottenham Stadium, and they showed up en masse over in London, but we sent them back across the pond with their pockets empty and a big old L, and it was all good. But this year, it doesn't look the same or feel the same. Doesn't mean it can't happen.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you look at the league, I mean, how many favorites lost this weekend?
Well, I'll give you another one, Coach. This is probably another one, like a sidebar worry for me, is that you saw teams that went from week 1 to week 2 in a positive way. There are some negative ones, but in a positive way, took huge steps forward.
Right.
Let's use Atlanta as an example. Last night, Monday Night Football against Philadelphia. Philadelphia has so many weapons. You're expecting that they'll handle their business. Bottom line is Kirk Cousins, who hardly can ever win when the sun goes down, led his team to a very impressive win.
Yeah, and that's really the way the league is built right now. I mean, you can't go into any game. You know, I believe if we just work at it and make sure we come out ready to go, there's no guarantee that we won't win the next two. Makes me a little nervous, you know, but at the same time, anything can happen.
Sure.
You look at Houston. Look at Houston. I mean, you know, now the Chicago Bears have a pretty good defense. And I think we can be pretty good defensively. But, you know, in that game, first of all, they were lucky to beat the Colts.
Close
and
game.
Then they go into that game, and in some ways they were lucky to win that one against the Bears. So, you know, not anything is possible in this league right now.
And Anthony Richardson goes up to Green Bay after that impressive win and makes a lot of mistakes, throws 3 picks, and Malik Willis, who basically had been given up on, left Tennessee, goes up to Green Bay. Matt LaFleur, he says, wait a minute, I don't have Jordan Love for a minute. Let me go ahead and get this guy ready, and they win a football game. The New Orleans Saints have gone their first 2 games pounding. Beating the Carolina Panthers, not a shock. Beating Dallas the way they beat Dallas, holy smokes. Yeah,
that's the way the league is. And you know, fortunately, it's that way if you're struggling, that you have a chance to come out of it. If you're a favorite, you still better play every week like it's the only game in town. And you know, there were a lot of home teams that lost this weekend. I think 8 home teams lost out of, what were there, 14 games? It's a parity league right now.
All right. Then the other one I was going to try and find for you real quick is that I think it's 14 drives, and I'll see if I can find this here. 14 drives for the New Orleans Saints in the first 3 quarters of their first 2 ball games. They have scored every time.
Yeah, and the first 3 drives for the team we just played, the Cleveland Browns, against us, scored the first 3 and the 5th one.
And so when I start looking at some of these things, it is very frustrating, and I'm trying to figure it out. Trevor Lawrence, his part in this, I do think, as Coach laid out, and I think we all have basically talked about, the offensive line is nowhere near where you'd like it to be. It can be serviceable at times. It was against Miami. It was at times against Cleveland, but it's still not where it needs to be. The strengths, left tackle, right tackle, going into the season, at least that's what we thought, they've been liabilities, maybe even more than the interior part when you boil it down. So now let's get to Trevor. 2 3-and-outs to begin this ball game. There was a wide-open Gabe Davis that he sailed the ball over his head, a couple of other decisions that he did not make or did not make the right decision, and then also was not accurate with the football. He still shares in the responsibility.
Yeah, he definitely shares in the responsibility. And again, I think he has a tendency to I think he tried to compensate this week a little bit with that by trying to get out too quick sometimes on not giving the offensive line an opportunity to protect him.
Yeah.
So that's coming from the fact that they don't protect him half the time. So it's really an ugly situation right now, and I think he's really frustrated. He got into a little bit of a contest with Coach Peterson on the sideline in the first half. He was upset with the timeouts, guys not getting set, getting out of the huddle quick enough. You throw a touchdown pass and a guy has an illegal shift because he lined up on the wrong side and then ran over there to get where he was supposed to be and then go back in motion and he didn't set over there.
Yeah.
I mean, those kind of things just frustrate the quarterback more than anything else. And so things are not happening on 100% cylinders right now.
As Leon on XL Primetime likes to call Trevor Lawrence I-275 because that's how much he's got in his back pocket. He needs to play angry. He needs to be accountable for what because I love his soundbite, but he needs to follow saying after a game, we suck right now with answers.
Yes.
He needs to put pressure on himself and pressure on those around him.
I already gave you the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is win first and second down.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Because I'm telling you that when a team cranks it up against us, against our offensive line, there's pressure on the quarterback any way you look at it. Now, if every time they get into third down, they're 3rd and 5, get rid of the ball. Bam, 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 bam. That's it.
Yeah, it should be a shorter passing game.
Yeah, I mean that's you're in the driver's seat there.
Yeah,
so that's what's got to happen.
Yeah, a couple things that are real obvious, like I love that you could solve it so quickly if they could just get it done and make a lot of Duval happier. But run the football, run play action off of it, and then get your short passing game going.
Right.
Brian Thomas Jr. is a weapon. He can be a weapon in the middle of the field. All right, 2 real quick ones before we're done.
Yep.
Trevor, going back to him.
Yep.
You have Brian Thomas Jr. open right at the goal line, and you try and force it into pretty big coverage with Brenton Strange, a backup tight end, and you're trying to stuff the football in there when you know BTJ's wide open. Why?
Well, the one you're talking about is
late in the game when they're in a position where they can take control of this game.
Yeah, the one I'm talking was that on hit when he scrambled out?
He was flushed out of the pocket for half of a second, but he wasn't even flushed out of the pocket. No, he dropped, set, red coverage. Brian Thomas Jr. breaks to the right. It was almost a little bit of a pick play, and coverage went with Brenton Strange.
I can't answer that one.
And he made a poor decision.
Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't think that they've really taken a profit when they've had an opportunity, which is the shorter passes this year as much as they did last year. To me, I think he's got to have the wherewithal to be able to see the field. Yeah. And whether or not he has that, he hasn't proven that yet.
Yeah, ball inside the 10, got a half a quarter to go, can't take the lead. That's serious. All right, the other one, which I know had to drive you crazy, there may have been a moment in the press box, ladies and gentlemen, where Coach Campo may have slammed the table, and there may have been a PA announcer that said, Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you, this is a working press box, and we would like you to respect your fellow media members. Coach was so mad. He was so pissed off. All right, but let me just get to this one. 4th and inches. They're on their side of the field. Cleveland in a situation where if Jacksonville can stop them, they're going to get the ball in a great situation, and they get absolutely embarrassed. Jameis Winston comes in. They're expecting this is a no-question sneak, and they slip it around. No contain on the right side of the defense, and Jerome Ford busts off, 40-some yards.
Well, first of all, it was we were completely outflanked. I mean, we had a corner sitting outside. We had a safety back in the back end, and everybody was inside the offensive tackle on that weak side.
That's embarrassing.
It was ugly.
They had it at their own 37 and ran it all the way almost into the Jags red zone.
It reminded me of the game last year. If you remember, there was a 4th down play and the tight end was wide open, ran straight down the field and was wide open. I think it was in Njoku. I think it was against Cleveland. I think
it was against Cleveland.
Yeah, and it was because everybody was playing the run and nobody covered the tight end. It's the same situation. You have to be sound. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, you got to be sound. You got to have somebody in a contained position, and we didn't have it. So I probably, I've come close to getting thrown out. Less this year. There's only been one game, but
it's early.
It's early. Yeah. Listen, I wish there were about 6 plays that we could go back and say, hey, they did that better. But there were 6 plays where we didn't play very well. That's it.
Oy vey. All right, listen, we brought the bobbleheads back out. We're trying to change the fortunes for your football team.
We can't flip them, though, until we win. With them.
But Monday night, we will see if they can get good numbers, down and distance situation, better 1st and 2nd down plays to make it easier on 3rd down to convert. And we'll see if they can steal a win up in Orchard Park, New York.
I'm counting on it.
All right. Let's see if they can get to 2-1. We had a great time. Campo and Joe, we'll talk to you on XL Primetime. Afternoons 2 to 4 on the Superstation. Dave, as always, appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
The Campo and Joe podcast is brought to you by Bold City Heating and Air. Fast and reliable AC service.